Hi, it's 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐻, hashtag climate change, coming to you from New York City and the Sirhan House, home of the best real estate firm ever. And this is the Anatomy of an Entrepreneur, where we dissect and explore what makes an entrepreneur. And today, joining me is my good friend and fellow musician, Michael Mott. Michael, thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Michael is a critically acclaimed award-winning composer, lyricist, songwriter, vocal producer with over 13 million streams across his platforms. And he was named one of the top musical theater songwriters you should know by Playbill. And thankfully, I know you. So I feel pretty excited about that. In fact, Michael and I were first connected back at Ithaca College 20 years ago.
Yes, 20 years ago.
Shit.
I know we're old. Very old.
We're not old.
It's true.
You look great.
Thank you. 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭. Thank you. My sponsor. Thank you.
Okay, good. So Michael, tell the people what it is that you do.
I am a musical theater and pop songwriter.
Okay.
I write different musicals and make albums and music videos and singles and do concerts across the country, teach master classes.
You're an all-around kind of musical genius, it sounds like.
Musical, period, person.
Yeah, everything about it. You have made a whole career out of this, right?
Yes, yes.
What was your first big success in the music songwriting?
Well, it's funny because I went to Ithaca for a musical theater performance, and I was an actor for 8 years professionally. And I was not super thrilled with the performing world.
Why?
Because you're handed a material and you're expected to say those lines and sing those songs the way they're written. And you can't be like, what if you did this instead, right?
Okay.
So I wanted a little bit more creative control. And, I was able to audition for a writing program. I got into that. It was a 2-year program.
Okay.
And then as soon as that happened and my career took off that way, everything clicked. And I was like, oh, I meant to write and be like in the control of the work rather than.
Had you ever written before, or was this kind of like, oh yeah.
But I called myself a closet composer because I didn't know what I was doing. I just, I played piano and then, I'd learn something and then go off and start making up my own thing. And, I would like, here's the piece. And I'm like, but it'd be better if it did this, Okay. Like, what did I know? I was like 8.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I never really studied music theory and composition. So
was that a part of the program that you talked about?
It was, but it was like very simple.
Okay.
Oh, you mean the BMI program?
Yeah.
Oh, at Ithaca, it was very simple for what we did. But the opera training had much more intense music theory than we did.
Sure.
But no, actually, I was in the BMI. I'm still in the BMI program, actually. I'm in the advanced program now. But in the 2-year program that I did, no, it's more about lyrics and how to develop a story with characters.
Interesting. So how did you ever build that muscle of actually like writing, figuring that out?
Go, baby.
No way.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's still moments. I mean, like we all have imposter syndrome, but I still feel like, do I know what I'm doing? But luckily, before it gets to the world, for the most part, it does. Like I write it, I'll give it. If I don't, I arrange my own stuff. But sometimes if I'm writing a musical or if I'm writing a certain song, I'll give it to an arranger and then they'll do things. And then an orchestrator. So at that point, 3 people who are better than me have already seen this thing.
Okay.
And, once I get past those like the music elite, then I'm like, okay, this is good.
Interesting.
That it's the first moment, sharing that first thing that you write when someone else hears it, that you're like, this is so vulnerable. I'm so scared. That moment is terrifying.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that akin to being on stage and like opening up as an actor?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you have until you have it.
Interesting.
And you just write something and I'll feel a certain type of way about it. And then sharing it with someone for the first time, you're like, is this terrible? Is this awful? Do I sound terrible on this? And it's not even about the singing. It's about like, is this lyric? This is very vulnerable. Is this melody okay? Is this, that's what you think. That's what I think.
You just recently premiered a new show, right? Tell me about that.
It's my fourth musical I've written. It's called
it is.
The Fairy's Tale. We debuted it a few weeks ago here in New York for industry.
Okay.
And the response has been very positive. I'm very excited.
That's awesome.
And it looks like it's going to have a beautiful life. And we're just trying to figure out the best option for us to move forward, whether it's a regional theater that we pair with around the country that helps develop the show, or a New York producer, or what that situation is. So there's a lot of things to consider. And I've written it with a lovely woman named 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐻, who wrote the script, the book, and I write the music and lyrics.
And you were telling me earlier about sort of like the process that went into that. You know, speaking of this vulnerability, how you are in a room, right? We were talking because we were upstairs here at the Sirhan house and there was a lot going on up there, a lot of activity. And you were talking to me about like just the creative energy that you felt within the room and how that's very different. And that reminded me when you said vulnerability and like being, you know, composing in this space and you're feeling it, but then you have to share it with other people. Tell me about like what happened in the process of this show.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I've been writing for 5 years.
Wow.
And it's inspired by a true story that went viral on YouTube.
Okay.
And a woman was sharing her life story about being a woman in her 40s falling in love with a man in his 20s. And
cougar.
And that story, well, it's really unbelievable what actually happened to her. You can look it up on The Moth. Her name is Ariana Rose.
Okay.
She told her story at The Moth. And then I had to go through the process of watching that video and buying her life rights and like working, like it was so much legal stuff for years. And we got it. And the process of then writing and going into myself is truly like meditating and finding center. And
that's cool.
Accessing those emotions within myself. And actually, it was actually a breakup that I went through that inspired me to even work on the show. Because I, you know, broke up with somebody and I was super raw and vulnerable. And the next day, this woman's video was all over my Facebook feed back in 2017.
Interesting.
And people were like, this is a beautiful, watch this. And I was like, why is everyone sharing this video? And so I clicked on it. And in 6 minutes, I was a mess. And I sent it to my collaborator. I was like, we have to make this a musical. They're like, how? What?
No way.
And that's how that happened. And I put a Facebook status up. I'm like, who knows the booking people at The Moth? Then a woman who produced one of my musicals, my other musicals, was like, oh, I went to college with her. She was my college roommate.
No way.
Connected me with her. And then she connected me with the woman whose story it was. And it was a process.
Wow.
But to answer your question, the business side.
No, please don't.
That's the business side of it. But
we'll
then
get there.
The
we'll
writing,
get there. Yeah.
But then the writing is a completely different thing because then I have to like, for me, what I needed to do was capture this woman's spirit and essence.
Okay.
In a show.
Right.
And she is so unique, but her experience is so universal. And so what I had to do was sit down and access those emotions within myself and then translate them to music and lyrics.
Interesting.
And that takes a lot of shutting out the whole world and going into myself. But you really have to know who you are to even allow that to prosper.
What happens if you don't have one of those experiences that this person that you're trying to illustrate has had? Like, how do you find a parallel within yourself to access that?
Well, it's okay. So I'm a gay man and I am single and I don't have a child.
Right.
I had to write a song about what it feels like to have a baby. So what is it to me that I relate to?
Right.
That connects with me. Now, I have many friends who have children. I have nieces and nephews. I could go in that way.
Right.
Or I can relate to, I didn't do this, but I could relate to my songs, the other things that I feel very connected to that I'm proud of and access that. I don't think you necessarily have to have the exact same situation to replicate a similar feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
When you see it all come together in the review that you were doing, like, or on stage for the first time, what happens as a composer? Like what, does it go perfectly the first time? What happens in your head?
Absolutely not. In a situation like this, we have 4 days to put it together.
That is so ridiculous. So you've been working on this for 5 years.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And you get 4 days and, you're there 10 to 6, you're rehearsing and you're like, nope, this goes like this. Okay, that's wrong. Okay, they're just going to rewrite that line. Cool. And the audience doesn't know. It's like about the overall picture.
Right.
Those 4 days, I'm so specific with what's happening in each moment. And then the last day of the presentation, you see it all together. And it's the first time you see it. And you're like, oh, you know what? That doesn't work. Oh, that moment doesn't work. We have to change this. Like, this character doesn't even make sense. In the next version, I need to rewrite this character. But it's just seeing what you have.
Yeah.
So on the presentation, in the rehearsals, it's a big zoom in. In the presentation, it's a zoom out for me.
That's really, that's great.
And then I see, yes, I know what's coming, but I'm also trying to live through the audience and being like, well, how are they reacting?
Right.
This moment that I think is like the big moment of the show. Do they think it's the big moment? Is this moment working? Is this successful? And it's being in tune because the audience is your last collaborator in my medium.
Okay.
I can be writing songs. I can work with this book writer who writes the dialogue, the script, the structure, all of that. but it really comes down to what the audience thinks and feels. And once we have an audience there, they tell us what works and what doesn't.
Do you find that sometimes the audience goes in a different direction than what you had hoped, but it's a direction that you're really happy with?
Yeah. There's definitely moments, not in this show, but I have another piece that definitely happened.
Interesting.
Yeah, we did a presentation back in 2019 of my show In the Light. And oh my gosh, the day, you don't have a run through. That show's like 2.5 hours, and we didn't ever run through until the presentation.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there in the 11 a.m. presentation, and I look at my book writer, and I'm like, oh, the first 30 minutes of this show, completely unnecessary. That was for us. That was for us to figure out what's going on.
Right.
The show starts on page 32.
Yeah.
Like, we can cut the first 32 pages and save 30 minutes of this musical. It's just so crazy.
You know what I think is nuts about this is that I think people...
That I'm in this profession?
People that have not experienced a sort of parallel to this profession won't understand how much of it is until the last minute, or how much is going on like on its feet in the day of the show.
My father came up to see this.
Okay.
He's like, people have no idea what goes into this shit. And I was like, yeah, no, they really don't. He's like, people have no clue. You work on this 5 years, you do this, you got to wait another 3 for it to come to Broadway. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly right.
I mean, but we're in a culture, especially here in New York City, that like, the preparation, nailing the pitch, doing all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That is not a part of, well, I mean, it is a part of what you're doing, but it's very much on its feet, it's an evolution. It's a living thing. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you were talking before we started recording about yes and. Yes. I feel like this is the perfect slotting in for yes and, right?
Yes and, that's right.
What is yes and? If you're a business person out there going, what the hell are they talking about?
So my training is in acting. And
you don't say.
And sure is. And in acting training, we talk a lot about yes and. When you're on stage, you're with another character, you always say yes. It's actually an improv tool.
Right.
And, I have a ball and I throw it to Andy and he catches it and then throws it back. And we're in the pattern of yes and. If he drops the ball and says no, that cuts the conversation. But a yes and always allows the conversation to keep flowing. And it's the first thing you learn when you're doing improv, of you always say yes. If we're doing a scene and I'm like, oh, the Poconos are chilly today. And you're like, no, they're not. The scene's dead.
Done.
But if you're like, yeah, my scarf blew off in the wind. Now we're suddenly in a scene and we know we're in the Poconos, your scarf is off in the wind, and now we have things to play off of.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes.
Teaching acting classes. Sign
Here
up.
we are.
Michael Mott on that.
So this is a podcast about entrepreneurship, and some people,
Okay.
It will be, we hope. Some people out there might be saying, how is a composer an entrepreneur? And I mean, I know the answer to that, but in fact,
Please enlighten me.
Well, no, but when I texted you to be on this, you were like, hell yes, I'm an entrepreneur. This is what I do every single day. But to someone that may not understand this because they're used to, watching Shark Tank and seeing, the pitch.
My favorite show.
I mean, me too, frankly. Can we be honest? I wear Bombas every day. Thank you, Shark.
I have them on right now.
Yeah, well.
Who's your favorite shark?
Kevin O'Leary.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because...
Oh, God, you are...
Well, we're both into watches. We're both kind of, up to date.
Nasty, mean people.
Yeah, well... #climate change.
I do like Lori.
Yeah.
She's so sweet.
And when she gets to that moment where she like tries to butter up the person, you're like, here comes an offer.
She's lovely.
Yeah, she is. So Lori's your favorite shark.
I like Lori. I also like Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
Because he's a billionaire. Like what?
Yeah, why not?
What? I mean, mad respect for him.
Yeah. So speaking of Shark Tank, why are you an entrepreneur?
I do think that my specific situation is very unique because I don't associate myself as a composer. Like I see myself, this is so cheesy maybe, but I do truly see myself as an entertainer, someone who is multifaceted.
Yes.
I'm an entertainer, I am a singer, I am an actor, I am a songwriter, I am a composer, I'm a lyricist. And it's like ridiculous when you have to like update your website. And it's like, what are you? Like, let's label you. And I hate the term multi-hyphenate, but it has a purpose.
It's even hard to say.
Yeah, I couldn't think of it. I was like, multifaceted? No, multi-hyphenate. But it's true. I do feel like and especially in the profession I'm in, in the day and age we're living in. I mean, we have to do many things. You have a freaking podcast now. I mean, hello.
Yeah.
Hello. So
I believe it's called The Cast. Is that right?
The Cast. So my whole life is really centered around building my brand and the things I'm doing. And there's, it's one umbrella, but there's many things that trickle down.
Okay, I love this. So I want to spend a couple minutes on this. You actually are probably the first person I know that established what your brand was and went to town with it. Like verified yourself on these different...
I didn't verify myself. Instagram verified me.
Well, whatever. What I'm saying is you made it happen. Like you worked these platforms way before it was even a popular thing to do. And I think that you, out of anybody I know, found that route early and hit it hard. Talk to me about like what was that like to build your brand before it was even a thing? Like why did you know it was necessary?
Thank you for that. I have to give credit where it's due because it was not myself.
Okay.
That was my cousin owns a social media agency.
All right.
And she has run a lot of my social, she doesn't, I post everything, but she's always advising.
Okay.
And she has access to like the Facebook, how Facebook's connected to Instagram. And she'll go in and she'll be like, why are you not utilizing this? Like, this is your audience and you're completely ignoring this. And I'm like, oh, it is? Like, I don't know. And, she was really the one who steered me in the direction to make everything happen.
Okay.
So I have to give her credit. Everyone should hire her. FMN Creative. She's fantastic.
There we
she
go.
Works many big accounts. And I'm very lucky that she was able to help me.
Right.
And so it's kind of the divergence of many things. So social media was my conduit, but my first album came out right at the time when social media was getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Okay.
When Spotify started introducing playlists.
Okay.
So my songs from my album got on the playlists and then social media and then the people singing. So I'm a musical theater writer and I will write the songs, but then I'll have different stars sing the songs. Sometimes I sing myself as well, but it's mostly...
Those are my favorite.
Thank you. So, I'll have the star of the big hit show that year singing my song and then it's on a playlist. And so it was a lot of things have to line up.
Cross collaboration.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that I think is a very, yes, you can say I'm an entrepreneur in that it's a business mindset, but it's also a lot of luck.
Yeah. Which is any
luck.
business, really.
Yeah.
But I think the thing to not glaze over here is that everyone in today's, business world knows they need the social media presence. Yes. I talk to 10 people a day that say, I know I need to do it, but the lift is too heavy for me.
It is.
I want to take a moment and acknowledge the fact that you were like, yeah, you had your, cousin helping you advise, but you did the lift and you made it happen and you put yourself out there on a platform, right, that was available to you and it spread your business like wildfire. Truly.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I guess there is an aspect too of being a shameless person. I am shameless in a certain way. And I don't know. My motto back then was like, get the biggest name possible, come for the names and stay for the content, stay for the music. And so I do think that I've been fortunate to have, I'm still nowhere near where I want to be at all. I have 0 shows on Broadway today. So we're going to keep working.
There's time.
There is, however, before I'm 40, that needs to happen.
Okay. There's less time.
But we have a few years. But the idea is, I hope people come. And it's not just empty calories. People come and they're like, wow, there's a substantive meal here. And they stay for that because I don't want to just do something quick and have people come and then leave and fall off. I want to retain people. I want to retain an audience and keep building that audience and get bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't want to have like a one thing pop off and then people love me and then fall off. I'd much rather go slowly and build, a snowball going down a hill and get bigger and bigger and bigger.
So let's talk about that. You have crossed over 13 million streams. Right?
Just on Spotify. Okay.
Right.
Yes.
So that's even more. That's even more to your point. Like how did this snowball grow from the first song that you wrote from listen number 1 to now?
I do not know. I don't know. I do all of the things in terms of, promoting the songs as best I can, promoting the music as best I can, investing in music videos, doing live concerts, going on podcasts, doing PR. Like I do what I can.
Right.
And And, you know, a lot of my stuff I write in a variety of styles and genres. And it really just depends on what your taste is, I think, because certain people love pop music and hate musical theater. Well, I have a ton of pop songs, and then I do dance remixes. And like the first thing that popped off was a dance remix that I did.
I think I sing a little bit of it. What is it?
It's called ''𝐃𝐿'.
Oh,
and there's
no, I'm thinking of the da 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 da.
Oh, don't stop dancing because it's fire. Yes. Okay, which here's a hilarious story. First of all, I hate the version of that on the album.
Okay.
And it's no one's fault. I just I hear it in my head very differently, and I've redone that song.
Okay.
And it's no one involved's fault. It's my own issue with how we did that. But I was 27, didn't know what I was doing, and just, you know. But here's the funny story, and this ties perfectly into entrepreneurship.
Okay.
As a songwriter, and someone who, I'm not going to get into the business of music, but I own my song as a songwriter. I own the copyright. I own the publishing. And when you make a recording, that recording that you make is called a master.
Okay.
I funded that album. I raised the money for it, but I own the masters. So I'm owning money on 5 accounts. Then there's an artist. So there's an artist, the songwriter, the copyright owner, the publishing, and then the master.
Wow.
So it's 5 ways on one song. Well, that song specifically has had, 5 or 6 different remixes, and there's different versions of that song. So that will pop off from whatever happens with that. But out of nowhere, I get requests from show choirs to license my songs and make their own arrangements.
Interesting.
So now I have, I think, 8 or 9 different songs with different show choir companies. And someone in Idaho is doing Don't Stop Dancing this weekend. And then I'm getting royalties from this. From something I wrote the original, but then someone else does an arrangement, and I'm still getting fed into. Don't Stop Dancing is one of the most performed show choir songs across the country.
What?
So it's random. That I didn't think that would happen. That's not my intention. My intention is to write musicals and have that happen. And then from that comes recordings. And then suddenly the recordings have a life. And then the recordings have sub lives. And that's that is investing.
That's great.
And then there's sheet music. And then people are buying sheet music and singing songs on auditions. And then people write and they're like, can I get the backing track to the album? And then there's backing tracks, and then there's plunk tracks. People need plunk tracks. And then suddenly music notes are buying things. It's it becomes this thing that is completely out of control that I'm, managed.
There's
today,
a snowball.
Massive snowball. And that to me is far more important than having one thing hit and then you're done.
I mean, there is so many things that I just thought about in that are so brilliant, because it's the definition of passive income, right? You created this one thing and then boom.
Yeah. But I didn't set out that way.
Right. But
I didn't think that. I was like, this is the benefits of this. Wow. Okay.
But that's when you speak to people who are successful, they always kind of have that same story. Oh, I didn't intend to create an empire of Don't Stop Dancing.
But I'm yes-anding it and going well, if show choirs are going to sing my songs, and it's not something I know about or intend to do, I'm going to keep on feeding songs to the show choirs and then have that money help and cushion while I'm working 5 years on writing my next Broadway musical.
Yes.
Because the investment...
And please give me jazz heads. Yes, and.
Yes, and. Exactly. The investment of writing, for me, I don't want to say the end goal, but the bigger goal for me is writing Broadway shows and having those shows on Broadway. And that is my true ultimate end goal. But
that's your why.
Correct.
If we had to define your why.
Yeah. So for me, the idea is I want to write Broadway musicals. But if these other things help support me as I get there, then
who cares?
I'm going to keep saying yes, because I'm still doing my passion. I'm still doing what I love. And honestly, at the end of the day, I want to inspire people, heal people, and move people in some way or another. And I think I could be in a sad place in my life and I can write a sad song, but that can still inspire someone.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you never know what song's going to hit, for your audience. I told you, offline that my favorite song is Try. Right. And it's this very luxuriating, beautiful, soaring melodies. But the lyrics are actually kind of pretty sad. But to me, there's something about the content of it, the music of it that lifts me up.
Thank you.
Even as I hear the last thing, the last lyric is something about the fact that he's watching his lover, cry and he just has to stand there. But to me, it lifted me up the whole time.
Well, yeah, no, thank you for saying that. That song is truly about someone who has their emotional walls up and is trying to let them down. and connect with someone, but can't be vulnerable. And that's why the song goes to a big place, because he's trying, he's imagining, and then it comes back to just guitar. And he's like, when I see you cry, what I'd give to hold you.
Right.
But my arms are tied and I watch you cry.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's giving me chills right now. That's what I love about music. It does all these things to you. You know, I never knew that was, you know, how you saw it, but it didn't matter. I had the same emotional experience, but in a different way.
Well, that's the beauty of music too, because I can intend one thing and the listener can completely get something else out of it. And I'm not going to take that away from you. I want you to get out what you get out of it. And that's completely valid.
Right.
And that's honestly probably the greatest compliment, because it can be universal and you could take what you get out of it. And it cannot be what I intended, but still have the same effect, or maybe a completely different effect, but you feel something, and that's art. Yeah.
So now, okay.
Even if you hate it, it's still art.
Yes. Now, okay, the show choirs are starting to fund your daily life and
not my daily life.
Yes, they are.
I mean,
you pulled up in front of this place in like a Range Rover. I saw you.
I did. Thank you.
No, he didn't. He did.
Range Rover.
Yeah, he did. No, but no, I'm joking. But the point is,
by foot.
10 trains. The point is, okay, all of a sudden these show choirs are doing this music. Are you now saying, hey, wait a minute, you know, can I feed them something else? Can I compose them something else? Can I suggest something else to them so that portion of your business gets bigger? Or do you just let them kind of figure it out? Like, how do you take this customer, this lead now that you have, this real source of income? What do you do with it?
Okay, well, it's not that big of a source of income.
Okay, but let's go with it.
Okay, so honestly, this woman came to me because she heard the records. So she said, you know, I'm looking for up-tempo pop, something that's like, you know, we don't want ballads, we want whatever. And so I looked at my catalog and I was like, oh, I have this song, I have this song, I have this song. And I sent her like 9 songs and I said, pick which one do you want? And she picked maybe 4 of those.
Right.
And that's how that worked, because I'm not doing anything. You know? So no, I'm not sitting around writing new songs just for the show choir.
Right.
I'm thinking bigger picture of like, if I'm going to aim as high as I can aim, I'm going to get the biggest person I can get to sing the next song, put that out, make a music video, or do whatever I have to do. And then the trickle down will be, oh, she likes this as well. And then, you know, I'm not thinking just funding that, or feeding that. I'm thinking as high as I can go. I'm actually thinking, what's the song in the musical that's going to be the big thing? And then record that. And then that trickles down.
Okay. Because
then
all those people become followers though, and know your music, and then they come back. No,
well, that's because this is the thing that's happened that I didn't even think of. These kids around the country are singing this song. Yeah. And so they're looking up the original.
Of course.
And then they're discovering that. And then they're discovering the sheet music. And then they're discovering the music video. And then they're finding me. And then it's like this wild cycle that I never intended or thought of. I just was like, I want to write musicals.
Right.
And this is the yes and. You just have to go with it.
Right. And I think in the business world, I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, this is the referral network in place. Like these kids are becoming your fans, right? And they're spreading the word of you to other show choirs that they know, and to other kids that they know, and to other people who like musical theater. And the next thing you know, you had this little pebble thrown into the lake and there's all these ripples and everybody's searching Michael Mott.
Well, similarly, here's what happens. So I have musicals. I have a song that supports my life. 2 songs actually I have a show In the Light. There's 2 songs, She's Not Me and Her Embrace, that are sung.
Oh, I know Her Embrace.
Everywhere. Sopranos singing She's Not Me, tenors singing Her Embrace.
Interesting.
What they do is they buy the song, they buy the sheet music, then they message me and they want to take a private lesson with me, coaching.
Interesting.
And I'm like, oh, this is a whole other aspect. This is why I say multifaceted, because if I'm just writing, that's not who I am as a person. You know me, I'm a ham, and I'm an entertainer, and I can, and I'm also like, I can coach them on like, well, why is the melody dung, 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 dung? What is that telling you? What's the actress doing? Why is this a repeating 8th note that just happens over and over again? Why do you think that is? And then we talk and I'm like, actually, what she's doing is this. And then it soars in the chorus because she's stuck here and now she's moving, everything has a purpose. So it's fascinating to be able to coach people on these songs too, which is a whole other world.
Interesting. Has there ever been a time when someone you're coaching opens up a part of a song that you didn't think about? Similar to like an audience?
Absolutely. However, I will say in these situations, because we do the workshop process and I've worked on it, that usually happens then.
Okay.
Once it's, I will not record something or put it out into the world until it's been tried and true. And I'll be like, oh, this is wrong because.
Right.
And then once I'm very confident with it, then I'll put it out. So typically not in that situation earlier on in the process.
I'm just impressed as I'm talking to you about how you just let's beat this horse to death. How you've used the yes and to build your business, because so many times a business owner gets blinders on. They are the composer in the room by themselves, and they're like, no, I'm not taking that message for the coaching. I'm not doing whatever else. Translated to my business, I'm only going to work in this price range and this whatever. I'm not going to speak to anybody else. And there are a lot of people in that zone, and they run businesses that are fine or mediocre, or they have maybe even a long life. But I think the people that really have businesses expand and multiply are the people that do exactly what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I honestly don't think about it. I it's so interesting when I do podcasts and such and people say something similar. I don't think this way. I just operate in the way that feels organic and true to me. And I want to do it and I want to say yes. So I just follow what feels right to me. So thank you for saying.
Well, that's also a really important point, like to listen to yourself and your internal compass.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I'll share that earlier this year, I have a real estate coach, and they were asking me about, my goals for real estate. And in real estate, we talk about GCI, like how much money you're bringing into the house.
What is GCI?
Gross commission income.
Love it.
Yeah, it's nerdy and
I love
silly.
It. I'm going to use it. I'm going to email my accountant and ask her my GCI.
And my coach said to me, hey, what do you want your GCI to be this year? And in the real estate world, it's always more. I want to grow. And I said, I actually think I want it to be about half what it was last year, because my priority is to spend more time with my daughter this year.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right? And I think that, knowing...
He's got money, honey. He doesn't need that money.
Oh, please. But, I think the point is to say, what is my internal compass telling me? What is making me happy? What do I need? And I want to go back to something that I had a question about earlier. You glazed over it in like 1 second. You said, well, as a composer, you really have to know yourself. But I thought to myself, wow, how many people don't really know themselves, who they truly are?
Most people. Most people.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I can get on my soapbox about this.
You can go for like a minute and a half if you want.
But here's the thing. Okay. I truly do believe that if everyone in this world has done their own internal work, therapy, I'm not saying everyone needs to go to therapy, but if you are aware of what's going on within yourself, you are taking the necessary steps and doing the internal work, from that, only positive and good things can come.
I love that.
Opportunities will arise, and like the opportunity will meet you where you're at.
Overture Institute.
Exactly.
Toy. Just in case you've been listening to the pod.
We're tying it all together.
We are. We're taking that needle all the way through. But yeah, I think I'm totally with you. No amount of self-work that you do is ever wasted.
Absolutely not. No.
Ever.
No. And so okay, I've hit this much money and it's amazing. Who doesn't love money? But maybe I don't need that because my priorities have shifted as I've changed and grown. And like now family is more important to me. So as long as I can provide for my family, myself, my daughter, for what we need, I don't need to hit this.
Right.
So that's healthy, I think.
Yeah. Knowing yourself.
Absolutely.
Really interesting. So entrepreneurship is about doing. We've been talking about this. What if you had to define the one thing that has yielded the biggest payoff in your career? Is there a thing?
Saying yes.
Again.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, it sounds like a broken record, but knowing myself, knowing my brand, knowing what I do, and saying yes to that.
Wait. Okay, so
I'll give you the perfect example.
Yes.
I don't want to say anything specific,
Fine.
But I was working with a pretty major record label writing songs back in the day. And I was trying to be something I am not. And I kept hitting roadblocks in terms of like being led on by things, being told, oh, write this. It should sound like 2023, but like, okay, so we're in 2023. It should sound like 2024, but like edgy and like powerful and like naughty, but then like super, and I'm like, what?
If you're not watching
what?
this podcast, you need to go on YouTube because you got to get the visuals. Okay.
But I'm just like, what the hell does that even mean?
Right.
And like people are just, executives are just saying things. Just be like, just write that. And you're like, okay. So I tried to fit into that mold and do these things. And like, here's a song for so-and-so, and this is a song for this artist, and diversify. And yes, that absolutely helped me. And it helped me stretch a muscle, and it helped me go into different genres and styles that I normally wouldn't.
Okay.
But I was trying, and I kept meeting resistance. And it made me realize this is not what I do, because then I'll sit at the piano and write one thing for a show and people are like, oh. And I'm like, people are saying yes to this. Maybe I need to be like, maybe just because I don't love musical theater music. I don't listen to that, but I love pop music and I wanted to fit into that mold.
What's the thing that Billy Joel says?
Oh my God, my favorite.
Tell me.
Vienna waits for you.
Well,
What?
yes.
I'm in a New York state of mind.
Sorry, I didn't mean the song. There's the quote.
Yes.
The quote.
I
Nothing
hate
feels.
writing, but love having written.
Yes.
Yeah, same, bro.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
I hate writing. Yeah, it's the most laborious thing in the entire world.
you love
but then you have a child and you're like, oh, I love this thing. Yeah, I love editing, actually.
Interesting.
Getting it out of me is the hardest thing in the world.
What I love most about this podcast is how you gloss over these major topics like they're nothing. So like what you just said is, I know my brand, I know who I am, I know all this stuff. And I think what I want to touch on for half a second is that I think that's what entrepreneurs struggle with the most. They don't have their brand defined. They don't know who they are. They don't know what direction they're going to go. And so they end up going everywhere haphazardly. And what you've said here today is you know exactly who you are. You know exactly what that internal compass is. You do this thing. And as a result, all this other things
But it
happen.
took me time.
Yeah,
it took me time to figure that out. I was 27 when my first album came out and it blew up and it recouped really quickly. And then suddenly it was like, what's next? What are you doing next? And I was like, oh, okay. And then it got a lot of attention and it helped me get to where I am. Then
Absolutely.
I was like, left turn, I'm going to write pop music. And that didn't do well. That album still has not recouped, you know?
Interesting.
And then I'm like, oh, wait. And I'm trying to fit square peg in a round hole. And I still love that so much, that music, but hasn't gotten to where, you know, and then I shift back and I realize, oh, this is what I'm doing. And then this is what I'm meant to do. This is what resonates. And while it may not be my favorite thing in the entire world, I've learned to love it. And I've learned to try to merge the two, therefore knowing my brand.
Yes.
And knowing my audience. That's the big thing.
Yes.
Because it's not for me. Yes. It's for you and for everyone and all of you out there.
Right. Yeah. But I think you've hit on so many huge concepts that are just, they're so important.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad it was helpful.
What's something you wouldn't do or you would advise somebody like, oh, I did this and it didn't work out? It sounds to me like you've already answered that a little bit. Like maybe it's that not listening to that internal compass where you said, I wrote this and it felt like there was some resistance to it, but I did it anyway. Mm-hmm. For you, is that what it was really?
Yeah, I do think, I guess kind of like meditating and sitting on your decision before, not being impulsive with it. Or if it is impulsive, it's really knowing in your gut, you know, like I recently saw something and I was like, that's the next show I'm writing. And I knew it. I was like, oh, absolutely. Rather than I get pitched a lot of ideas. Hey, we want you to write this. And I'll read it. I'll be like, no, you know, I'm like, this maybe someone else could do this, but this is not my style. This is not what I do. This is not the Michael Mott brand. You know? And I think it goes back to just knowing who you are and what you can do, what you're capable of, and having it resonate with you.
If someone out there is listening to us and they're like, I want to take the first step in my business journey, either as a composer, as a cookie maker, or a sock producer, or whatever the hell they're doing.
If the CEO of Bombas is listening to us,
please send me some. I mean, even though my entire drawer is only Bombas, I will still wear whatever Bombas you send me. What's the first step? Like what would you advise that person to do?
If they have a dream and a desire and a goal, I think it starts with, first of all, I think the first step is acknowledging that and listening to it.
Yes.
And how do you qualify it? So is it writing it down? Just writing it down and tucking it away? Is it telling your best friend? Is it sharing it with somebody? Because then that seed can start to blossom and become an idea.
Nice. Michael, time's been awesome. I can't even believe it's already flown by. I like to ask everybody the same 5 questions at the end. What is your favorite New York City restaurant?
Oh, okay. I love Greek and Mediterranean food.
Okay.
And so since we're downtown, I'm going to go with Lola Taverna.
Oh.
Very good. Very expensive. So
Well, that's okay.
take me out. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Message him through michaelmott.com. Is it .com?
It's .net.
.net.
.com. He's a famous poet.
Oh,
And I
didn't
couldn't
know
get
it.
the domain. No, he knows it.
I didn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
michaelmott.net.
.net. Do you have a secret New York City spot? Like if I come and visit you, I'm a relative, you're like, hey, we got to go check out this cool place that not many people know about.
Absolutely. In my neighborhood where I live, there's a hole in the wall that I don't want to share because I want to keep it. No, I want to keep it to myself. It's in Astoria off of the Broadway stop. That's all I'll say.
Wow. Can we at least know like what kind of thing it is? Is it a restaurant? Is it an activity?
It's a Greek. I'm only thinking about food at all times. I'm sorry. I didn't know that we were changing.
It could be anything, but you're saying it's a restaurant.
I mean, I like to go to the water. A lot of the times when I'm stuck, I go and connect with nature, especially like in the summer, I will ride my bike everywhere and like stop at the water and like have a notepad and a pencil and I'll write by the water. That's how
Interesting.
That's for me, how I reconnect. And that's my, like, I guess my secrets.
So is that like Astoria Park or do you go somewhere else?
I go everywhere, anywhere where there's water. I come into Manhattan, I ride along the perimeter of the city and I like stop by the like little benches and
Interesting.
I love that.
All right. So that's your secret thing to do.
Yeah.
Hey, if I had a camera like here right now.
You do, actually.
Well, I do. I have 3. Yeah, they look great. Thank you, Mikey. If I had a camera on you 3 to 5 years ago and I was like, hey, what would you tell yourself in the future?
Well, bring it back to Billy Joel. Slow down, you crazy child. You're
way too ambitious for a juvenile.
For a juvenile, yeah. I think, honestly, knowing that it's all going to work out, I do think that it can't be underestimated that a little bit of a push and a little bit of effort every single day will lead to monumental change. Exactly. Yeah.
Compound effect.
And I am someone who just keeps swimming. I don't ever really stop.
Yeah. No,
I will say these last 2 weeks, I have taken a huge backseat because presenting that musical took so much out of me that I need to rejuvenate.
Sure.
And so this is like a lot of meetings and, I'm not in a creative place really.
Okay.
Completely aligned because I've been working on a film for the last 3 days. But besides that, I really have not been doing what I normally do, my day-to-day of like hitting the pavement because I've just needed to rejuvenate.
Is there a money management thing? Because as entrepreneurs, we're in charge of our own money too. Is there something that you do that's been successful for you that you want to share? Because I'm into that.
Yes, absolutely. So there is a book that I read. I don't know if we're going to promote a book. Should we talk about it?
Just tell me quick.
There's a fantastic book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Okay.
That I read during the pandemic.
Okay.
That I also simultaneously took a money management course.
Nice.
Because I wanted to figure out how to have my money work for me. And these are things that we don't learn in America.
Sadly. Yeah.
And I diversify where my money goes and where I put it. Yeah. And I always make sure that it's some sort of high interest savings or an interest earning checking. So I'm never losing anything. And so I try to feed those so they are just padded at all times. And I have a recording fund and an emergency fund and a travel fund and a tax fund because, we owe, tens of thousands of dollars in taxes every month, every year, every month.
1099s. We love them.
I had 17 1099s last year. Or no. Yeah, 1099s, right?
Yeah. No, we did.
What do I issue people? 1099s.
Also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both.
Yeah, okay. I was like, wait, why do I feel like this is wrong? Yeah, no.
I'm also your accountant.
It's the worst.
I'll talk to you afterwards.
Oh my gosh. I pay her enough.
Okay. What's your favorite book? Is it,
we're going to go with, honestly, I really love Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert.
Oh yeah.
That's a fantastic book because the way she describes having an idea and having the idea, like you feel it coming and it comes through. That's honestly, there's times when I'm creating and I'm like, this is not me. I'm just the vessel for this thing. Yeah. There are times when people are like, I love this song. I'm like, that song, I couldn't write as fast as the words were coming to me.
So weird.
It's things that I'm like, that's not me. That's like whatever you believe in. That's God. That's Buddha. That's Joe Pesci. I don't know who it is, but it's not me. If you like George Carlin, that was a George Carlin reference.
Oh my God, Michael, this has been awesome. Thank you for being on. Everyone needs to go out there, listen to Michael's work, see him, go sign up for coaching at michaelmott.net. I don't know what you want to do, but I've loved having you today. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you next time. #climate change.